Let's just take a step back for a moment to think about how outrageous this gospel parable is. These people are invited to a banquet that is free, a banquet that is given by a king, no less. So we're not talking about hot dogs and cheap beer here. This is good food. This is a real banquet. There's no indication that they know the king who is inviting them, and it's clear that they haven't done anything to deserve the invitation. But their response is what is so absurd to me. Not only do some simply ignore the invitation and walk away, go back to their businesses, but others get violent. They beat and even murder the servants that have extended the invitation to a great feast. Now, who does this? If you do this, please tell me so that I never invite you to my house for dinner. But it doesn't stop there. After his servants have been beaten and murdered for extending the invitation to a free banquet, the king sends more servants to go into the main roads where the lower class are gathered to invite the poor and the sick and the beggars, whose stomachs were accustomed to scraps of bread rather than chunks of choice meat. This kind of generosity and perseverance on the part of the king in welcoming strangers to the wedding banquet of his son is completely unheard of. But what is most outrageous is the fact that we walk away from this invitation to the banquet all the time. And sometimes we probably don't even know it. God feeds us with the beauty of creation, but so often we're too busy to pay attention. God slaps a big helping of community right on our plates and invites us to partake of it, but we would rather watch the game or take in our shows. God sets a huge casserole of grace and mercy and hope on the table, but instead we nibble on envy and lust and anger from the dog's bowl on the floor. So often we turn away from the rich banquet of the king to eat things that can't even satisfy us for more than a minute. It's no wonder that people leave Mass feeling like they haven't been fed, because our stomachs are so full of junk food. Our minds are so full of distractions of what other people think about us and expect of us. Our hearts are so full of jealousy that even if we receive Jesus himself in the Eucharist, we can do so without leaving room for him to fill us with his life-giving and substantial presence. This gospel really makes us ask, what are we consuming in our lives? Because if we're not thinking about what we are receiving, what we are taking in on a daily basis, then we are allowing our stomachs to be filled by the people around us, by the food that they want to shove into our mouths. There's a commercial on TV right now. It hits me every time I see it. You hear the seductive woman, the voice of a woman who says, "I am the end of your search, your drive, your dream. I am what you live for." Now we ought to really be thinking, wow, this must be something really incredible. I am what you live for. What is it? What is it that I've been missing my whole life? What absence has been in my life and I don't even know it? I am what you live for. I am the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. A car Well, that was disappointing. Now, no one in their right mind would really say that they are living for a car. But the seduction of that illusion is very tempting. And we hear this constantly. This play on our desire to be filled, to be happy, to be satisfied with one quick purchase. Open happiness, Coke says, as though it can be contained in a bottle. Get in, get happy, says Volkswagen. One after another, we are promised that there is something in this world that can give us what we are really looking for. And whether we really believe that a particular product can do this doesn't really matter. The problem, and it is a real problem, is that we are being worn down, slowly convinced that we don't have to wait, that we don't have to change, that we don't have to look for something beyond this world to bring us fulfillment. And that, my friends, is a lie. And it is a lie that is winning in our culture today. And it is winning in part because we are not living our faith in a way that attracts people to the banquet of life, to what can really, really satisfy. And that means that we have to make a more decisive choice on which banquet we are going to attend. Because we can't fill ourselves with the things of this world thinking that they can really fulfill us, then show up at the Eucharist like it's dessert. And the same is true for the banquet of heaven. We can't live in this world like this is all there is and then stroll into heaven expecting there to be a plate waiting for us. I mean, look at the gospel. The guy got kicked out of the banquet because he refused to put on the wedding garment that was waiting for him at the door. For us, the door is not the door of heaven. That's too late. The door is not the door of this church. For us, the door where we are invited to put on the wedding banquet, the wedding garment, is baptism. Baptism, where we are washed clean, where we are claimed as a member of God's family, is where we are invited to put on this wedding garment, where we are invited to change. That's when we are called to begin living for the sake of the King, who has invited us to participate in His kingdom. And the King is very, very clear. If you have not changed, then you cannot eat. If you are not living for me, then you cannot be a part of my banquet. You cannot live in my kingdom. Maybe we shouldn't be so surprised if the violence done to the servants of the King is also done to the church today. Because the church invites people to the banquet always with a call to conversion. You must change. You cannot live for yourself. You have to live for God. And while every other product in our society only demands a purchase, a quick click of the button to claim its promise of happiness, the church asks us to do the hard work of changing our hearts, changing ourselves from within, being renewed by the call to conversion that God extends to us. And so, maybe it's time for us to examine if we have bought into the lie that says that the things of this world can really satisfy. Maybe now is a good time to change our eating habits, because the banquet of this world is nothing compared to the banquet of the King.